We're joined now by Victor Montagliani. He's the president of CONCACAF and a vice president of FIFA. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
It is a Women's World Cup year, so let's start with the ladies. Out of CONCACAF, Canada, the United States, and Jamaica all get in. Canada and the U.S. have programs that have been relatively well-funded for a long time. Yet you read the story of Jamaica's qualification, and you hear players doing their own laundry, rickety buses. What is CONCACAF doing to make sure that federations equally support men's program and a women's program?
Yeah, listen, I think it's, you see the strategy that's being laid out now by FIFA. UEFA just laid out theirs, and we're going to be laying out ours in the next couple weeks, actually. And I think it's important now that, that women's football, not just throughout our region, but throughout the world, quite frankly, is, especially at the development level, it's matched. Canada and U.S. have a history of that, and you see the success. We've been helping Jamaica actually as well. From looking at even from there's some players in terms of that are now going to be playing for the national team that weren't on the scene before. So we're helping them everywhere we can. But I think as we move forward with our women's strategy, I think that's one of the things that I think is very important. Is that the development of women's football is not passive. It's as aggressive or as at the same level in terms of commitment that it is on the boys' side or the men's side. And I think it's very important, especially at the youth level, because it has other connotations. It's not just about football, with all due respect. It's about the social aspect of it, breaking down cultural barriers that exist in other parts of the world that we may not have here in the U.S. or in Canada specifically. So I think it's a lot more holistic than just kicking a ball. So that's why I think it's just as important.
Does CONCACAF have the authority to, if they see a federation that isn't kind of holding up its end of the bargain, to say, hey, more money for your women's program?
We don't have the, everybody always thinks that FIFA or CONCACAF, it's like a government. We're not a government. It's an association of federations. And there's certain things that, from a governance perspective, you can do. One of them is when you do give them funding, you have to have a certain percentage that is put towards certain parts of the game. So we can do that when we send out the funding. In terms of what they do domestically, obviously we have a lot of influence in terms of, using a big stick. I think it's coming more and more, to be quite honest with you. But I think, and to be honest with you, I think over time it's come a long way, but it's still got a long way to go in certain areas.
One of your member associations, U.S. Soccer Federation, is being sued by their women's national team over gender discrimination. As the president of CONCACAF, what's your response to that when you see that?
Well, obviously, as a president, I have to also respect that I have member associations. I also respect the rights of the women that are doing that. And because it's a legal matter, I'm not a lawyer, but I would. It's not something I'm going to answer. But I think whatever the issues are, from our perspective, we hope they're resolved in an amicable way, and that it's a win-win situation for not only for the federation, but obviously for the players, because I think that's important as well.
Let's talk Gold Cup. Where do you see this tournament in 5 to 10 years?
I think it's important in the sense that it's the first time we've gone to 16 teams, and also first time we've gone outside of North America. We have Costa Rica's hosting, and also Jamaica's hosting. And so I think it's a sign of how far the Confederation has come. And the Gold Cup is just part of the strategy of what we want to do. It's quite ironic you say 10 years, because we've launched our 2030 strategy where we're going to take information from all the stakeholders of where we want to be in 2030. The Gold Cup being our flagship competition is going to be a big part of that. And I think, with the improvement of other countries in our Confederation, as we've seen in the last little bit, where, the U.S. didn't qualify, as we know, for 2018, but Panama did for the first time. You're going to see more of those stories, and I think the Gold Cup can be a venue, sort of a vehicle for that.
You call it the flagship competition. We've seen the U.S. in other years take a B team.
On the men's side.
Yeah. On the men's side, we've seen Mexico take a B team in other years. This year, many of their big stars won't be there. Is that damaging to the tournament?
Well, actually, you're always going to have, even in the World Cup, you got players that can't go because of injury But I think one of the reasons that was happening is because of the Confederations Cup, quite honestly. It was sort of very difficult for a team like Mexico, who was in the Confederations Cup and then had to compete in the Gold Cup in the same year, to try to take, the same group of players. One, because clubs would scream because of obviously that much playing time to a player. That's not going to be an issue in this Gold Cup. You're seeing the U.S. is bringing in all their players. Mexico is bringing in everybody that's available from a health perspective. I know Chicharito he's a father now, so I appreciate his commitment to his family. But I know Canada's bringing their best players. Everybody's bringing their best players. So I think the reason why it wasn't happening in the past was because of that. And I think that is not going to happen in light of the Confederations Cup not really being around in the near future because of the Club World Cup.
Would you like to see, and we've heard so much talk of this, the Gold Cup and Copa América mesh together? And is that a benefit to CONCACAF, or would that be in some way a detriment because you would be losing what you just called was your flagship event, or maybe taking a little bit of the shine off it?
Yeah, listen, I think, to be frank with you, the discussions we've had with CONMEBOL have never been to eliminate the Gold Cup. That's our competition. Copa América is their competition. Discussion has always been around creating something different, new, a joint venture. But with respect to the way we conduct business, my priority is CONCACAF. My priority is not CONMEBOL. Obviously, if we can do joint ventures with any confederation, not just CONMEBOL, but anyone that is in the best interest of CONCACAF, that's something we would look at. But also, for us, our priority is going to be the Gold Cup or our Champions League at the club level, or our youth tournaments at the youth level. It's not about taking your eye off the ball of your own federation because you want to do something over here. I mean, anything's a possibility in football, as we've seen. With an expanded World Cup and now an expanded Club World Cup. So, but it has to be done the right way. It has to be part of a long-term plan. It can't be done for instance, just for reasons of, it's going to be worth a lot of money. That's not the right reason to do it. It's got to be done properly, holistically, and part of a long-term plan. And that has never been an option, to be honest with you. It's always been short-term discussions, and that's something that CONCACAF is not interested in, short-term discussions.
You mentioned CONCACAF Champions League. This is an event that is growing, that is changing. I asked you what the Gold Cup would be in 5-10 years. Yeah. Where do you see CCL in 5-10 years?
I think CCL has an opportunity to really get to the next level in terms of from an international standpoint. I know that the MLS teams have struggled to be competitive in it, although last year Toronto did get to the final. And I thought we're unlucky in the final, but this year we had the Monterrey Derby. But I think that is really the future, not only for CONCACAF, but I think also for Liga MX and MLS. I think for them to be relevant leagues, I think that it needs to not only happen domestically within their own confines, but also has to happen through the Champions League. No different than what's happened in Europe, where a lot of the domestic leagues have found relevance in the Champions League, not just because they're the champion of their domestic league. So I think that's what the vehicle of the Champions League. We changed the format a couple of years ago so that you would have more impactful games, and we've seen a massive tick on ratings and in terms of full stadiums. And so I think the future of the Champions League is very, very bright.
ESPN has reported that Liga MX and Major League Soccer are considering putting an 8-team knockout tournament together. Would that be to the detriment of CONCACAF Champions League?
No, it would be, we've had those discussions with them, and we're supportive because it's at a different time. It's really only 8 teams, and at the end of the day, it's a tournament between those 2 teams. It's not the Champions League. You have club tournaments all the time in Europe. They're not maybe advertised, but you see that a lot, actually, whether it's on the break or even preseason. But at the end of the day, they have one Champions League, just like we have one Champions League. And so that's the meaningful tournament. Everybody knows that. It's the only way you can get to a Club World Cup. So at the end of the day, it's not really an issue for us.
Victor, I could take up another couple hours of your time, but I think I got to let you go. Thanks so much for the time, and thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
ESPNFC.
For more Sign up now for ESPN Plus.